All right, well, as you can see, today we have a guest speaker. His name is Peter Rex. Peter's an old law school friend of mine. He is a founder and CEO of Rex, the eponymous Rex, a technology and real estate company based in Austin, Texas, formerly in Seattle. Well, we may talk a little bit about that, about his move from Seattle to Texas. Pete has a BA in philosophy from Georgetown and a JD from Harvard Law School. He's had a very interesting path from the world of law school to business and now into technology. So please join me in welcoming Pete Rex. All right, so just to get started, Pete, you've had a very interesting career from your path from law school to business. I understand that you at one point thought about entering the seminary, and you had also a career in public service. Could you tell us a little bit about your path to Rex?
Yeah, so I'll just go off the top without the mic here. I think you guys can all hear me, right? So yeah, starting out, didn't really get, had an idea of serving people as something I wanted to get into. That will explain some of the seminary thing. And I'm Catholic, Irish Catholic, so didn't quite fit in with structure as well. In fact, even being here will up my time in total law school class by a lot as a percentage, because I basically skipped like every class. So almost got kicked out of law school at Harvard for that. Had to meet with the dean many times. So I'm sorry if I poison your well over here. But sometimes it's not for everybody. I would walk out of classes, wouldn't remember anything. So I hope you remember some stuff from this talk. But I just, I could read books and learn crap like that. So that's what I did. But yeah, I even got, officially failed by Elizabeth Warren when I was in one of her classes. And I had to pretty much negotiate my way back to take the final, which, included me having to attend every class to the final, which was only 5. So I did, and then she called on me every single time. But there was this protocol in the class where you can refer to a colleague, and I had a friend that was cool, and he always give me all the notes. So I was like, refer to my colleague, blah, blah, blah. She was like, damn, this guy, So, and I passed her test and stuff, so there's no problem. But anyways, I wouldn't recommend doing that, do your thing here. I could tell you some other things I did that would blow your brain, but including not going to any class and not studying except for 24 hours before the exam. So anyways, whatever, it's not for everybody. I have a certain way I can learn, and it's real focused, but also very distractible, like right now. So let me get back on topic. Yeah, so anyways, I ended up, even as a kid, I remember getting kicked out of Montessori school for just behavior issues and stuff. But I brought my Mickey Mouse shirt for everybody, just so you guys have a proper, seriousness towards this conversation. But, went to the Catholic seminary when I was 17 because I wanted to serve people, but obedience and stuff wasn't quite working well there. So I ended up going to community college, then transferred a couple times, transferred to a small liberal arts college called Ave Maria, then to Georgetown University, finished up with a philosophy degree and government, so it's double major. And then from there, I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. So I thought I was going to go to DC for public service, but then I was like, no way. Within 2 weeks, I was like, I can't stand politics. So it doesn't reward saying whatever the hell you want, which is not going to work with me. So ended up, deciding, okay, go into business. So, and realizing you could serve people there. So entrepreneurship fits my personality very, very well. So I ended up going to that. So over the last 16 years, I went to Harvard Law School along the way, got a CPA as well, but I also built out a couple $1 billion of assets in real estate. Did most of it during the downturn market in the great financial crisis, which was a good time to do that. It was also an extremely hard time to do it. And about 5-6 years ago or so, decided to go into tech because I saw it as a huge opportunity. So to serve people anywhere in the world because you can build it centralized. So I did do that. Went to the West Coast, San Francisco for a while, then Seattle. Then I relocated my company here to Texas. I'm in Austin. And we're building out with a vision towards creating new tech leadership, which is very different from Silicon Valley and on par just as elite. And that's what we're up to right now. We can get into that. My entry point is at the intersection of real estate and technology, because that's the area it stacks in my favor, the deck there. So, but yeah, that's the backdrop.
Great. Yeah. I mean, it's a really fascinating path. And could you started talking a little bit about what Rex does. Can you provide a little bit more detail about what they're doing, what they were doing, your pivot towards technology in the last couple of years?
Yeah. So we have a number of companies that we've spun up at the intersection of real estate and technology, like I'd mentioned. We have about 6 that we're working on right now. I'll give you an example of a few of them so you have an idea. And our vision here is to come through the real estate side, break into many industries and catalyze the formation of a new tech ecosystem on par with Silicon Valley or better. I think Silicon Valley and Seattle has become radicalized left. And I'm cool with anybody left or right, doesn't matter. It's about being open-minded and listening. But when you're radicalized, you start to shut other voices out. That's a problem. You can become like even more radicalized then. And I saw some of that happening out there, and I realized it's not a good soil to do that. So I relocated the company at tremendous cost. Had to shut down all the offices about a year and a half ago. So we're set up. We're crushing now. We're on the move. A few of the companies, to give you an example, is we have one that's going to be the Amazon of services, which is breaking through the maintenance side, which is a very fragmented, broken system right now. And that includes like we use computer vision technologies, which some of you guys might not be familiar with these terms, and feel free to ask me later, so I don't have to explain every damn term, but basically, and machine learning and stuff like that, that applies to help route much faster the labor and to connect the right types of materials to the right people and do the quality assurance for the jobs that get done fast. Another one is OwnProp, which we can get into here because that legal stuff helps there a lot. OwnProp is basically, it's blockchain real estate, and it's putting real estate onto the blockchain and tokenizing the assets so they can be freely traded anywhere in the world, and you can walk away with that asset, put it under your pillow if you want, and you still own it. You don't got to rely upon some, centralized company in Austin, Texas that holds your token. So we can get into that because that's really legally, a lot of stuff there, and understanding the law helps there a lot. So that might be an area of interest. And there's a slew of other ones like in fintech and insurtech plays that we have and data plays as well. So.
Yeah, pretty widely diversified tech company, real estate company. So this is a corporate law class, and one of the things that we talk about a lot is when CEOs either do something bad or have something bad happen within their company. So you're the CEO of a major company now. What are the kinds of issues that come before your desk that you have to deal with that are the most pressing, the most important issues for you?
Yeah, well, if I just say in general, the most important stuff is, not including legal, would just be hiring the best people, right? So maybe some of you are looking for a job later, and when you get out, you can look up Rex. So
there's very good, whenever you get hired, you get a really great LinkedIn video. Check him out if you haven't seen him.
Yeah, so we getting the best people, right? The team of the best players wins, right? Not totally true, but definitely a lot to that statement. So getting the best people, that's my most important thing. That's where I spend a lot of my time. The other one is strategy, setting the strategy. But now, apart from general business stuff, what do? On just a legal front, things that come to my desk, that's important. I would say structuring. Structuring is very important. It's underestimated, especially out the gate, because you come out the gate, you're trying to set up a company, you're trying to structure your capital with people, so you don't consider long-term outcomes as much at that point, right? But the reality is liquidity events, which is when you get the cash and when cash goes out to people, that's going to happen at some point in the next, usually about 7 years to 15 years out. You look at Palantir, it was 18 years in before they went public, right? But so you set up these structures, well, you're living with that, right? That's your house. Like whatever your legal structure is, that's the house you live in now. So, but a lot of people just like throw it together real quick with like a rent-an attorney and stuff, and it just like, don't really give too much thought to that. I think you guys are legally trained, so you won't make that mistake. But I think from a financial and business side it's extremely important, and it's upfront, but has like a long tail risk, as in that risk pops much later, so you don't even think about it that much. Especially as a startup, you're just trying to get business, you're trying to meet payroll, trying to get your cash flow going, so you're not thinking as much about down the road, you structured as a corporation, when you should have structured as an LLC, and now all of a sudden you're trying to distribute cash and you're paying double taxation on it. And your investors are like, are you an idiot? Why'd you structure it this way? And you can't do anything about it. Or you can, but it's at great cost. So there's like different, there's these types of things that could happen. I'd have to say I haven't made too many of those mistakes, probably because I went to law school. I'm sure that helped a lot. And there's a lot of other things that pop up. So structuring would probably be the most important thing. And I actually do get involved there. It's funny, when I first came out of law school, I spent like a few years trying to tell people, I'm not a lawyer, I understand business. I've been doing business for a while, running my companies. They'd be like, oh no, you're an attorney. And now it's like nobody believes me in my own company that I know anything about the law. And I'm like, there must be something about me that they just don't believe me. I have like no credibility. And I'm just like, what the hell? I have a JD, I've passed 2 bars, like I know this. But anyways.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we've talked about in class before. We discussed the Facebook case where Zuckerberg, originally Facebook was founded as a Florida LLC. And that came they got him into trouble later on when he had to transform it into a Delaware corporation. So that's good to hear that structuring is an issue that everybody thinks about. So one of the issues that you've spoken out about in the press and on LinkedIn is big tech. And so we've talked a little bit about in class about the dangers of powers and monopolies. What's your opinion on what big tech's doing wrong and also what it's doing right today?
Yeah, so it's not, first of all, I'd say I'm always very nuanced in my actual perspective, but when things come out in the media, it's always like sound bites, is how people get information. But the nuance is that big tech, these companies, right, they have created a lot of value. There is a lot of value there, and that have been created over the many years, 10, 20 years, 30 years, whatever. Silicon Valley really was in creation about 80 years ago when it started developing over time, right? And a lot of that was government contracts, convergence of things like Stanford University being out there, University of Berkeley, which would be just a major university that's just feeding talent into the ecosystem, right? And then a number of other factors too. Could have even been a mentality of the gold rush, like they're just used to that speculative type risk, culturally, stuff like that. But anyways, you had a lot of early people come out there, and they were of goodwill, and they never took advantage of the power given to them by the consumers. And you have Steve Jobs, people like that, Bill Gates later. You have a lot of people, right, that did a lot of great things, and people you wouldn't even know about, like Robert Noyce that created the microchip, right? But these things all became hugely beneficial to mankind, to everybody here, right? And then people continued to trust them, but now you have a situation where you have a radicalized situation, and the leadership there and a lot of the employees are radicalized. And I don't think it's everyone, by the way. It's a lot more hopeful than that. I just think the people that are open-minded, that are tolerant towards others and loving and everything else, they're being suppressed and they're being held down, their views, so they don't feel comfortable to come out and say stuff. But you have a situation where the leadership is like this, and they've taken advantage of the trust given to them, almost, and that's now compromised their position. And I don't really see a way out of it for them, because it's just such a an echo chamber over there. So it's an echo chamber where people don't realize that they're radicalized. They think they're moderate. I think if you ask them, where do you stand? They say moderate. I'm like, okay, well, you obviously don't talk to anybody else besides in this area. So, because even America would be left of the world in general. Actually, we probably don't realize that, but I've been to like 85 countries, I know that. And within America, you have these guys are like way far off about to fall off the ocean, So, and they don't realize, and they actually kind of, well, anyways, let me not get into that. But the negatives on big tech would be that, the censorship, the exploitation that we've seen. I mean, I don't know what the hell they're thinking at Facebook, that behind the scenes they're going to have a conversation and realize that teenage girls are having higher suicide rates because of the way that they're doing things. And they think, well, we're making money off it, so we'll keep doing it. Even though they already have a monopoly and they're printing cash. Like, what kind of leadership is that? I mean, they're out of their mind. Like, who would do that? Who would just be hanging out and be like, yeah, okay, we'll just be cool with that. Because that's come out now, It's not surprising to me, because as you try to manipulate people and play upon their vices to make money, you just keep going down that road and you realize how dark you've gone. So anyways, this type of stuff is an issue, and I think those are the negatives. The positives are we have a lot of excellent technology people out there, and they've created excellent things, iPhone, Android systems. All these things are coming out of there. All your technologies are coming out of these two areas. Like, people don't realize it. It's completely concentrated. It's a monopoly. And what I'm trying to do is break that monopoly up by setting up a new system. And I'm doing it because I think you need choice, and you need to have something different at this point. And by the way, a lot of people don't realize, they think everything will continue to stay the same or continue to go the way it's already gone. But there's been hotbeds of technology centers in the past, and they've also gone away in the past as well. So you could have a situation where through missteps and everything else, it could go away. I'm not saying it will. I think they're more at a plateau, steady decline state out there, rather than they're going away. But they're in a plateau state. And at least if you're in a plateau, let's not even say they're declining, which I think they are. I don't think they're going to go down fully. And we're not talking about a precipitous drop here. But when you have a plateau state, you have a grabbing at the pie. It'll start to get kind of like that. That's not a good you want an expanding situation. Here in Texas, we have an expanding situation. And I think people underestimate how open-minded Texans are. I think they have this idea out there that they're like these whatever, people that are closed-minded, and it's actually not the case. It's actually the opposite. So, but anyways.
Yeah, no, that's very helpful. And one of the, sort of to follow up on that question in your answer, one of the themes that we've talked about in our course is the role of states, and this role of states in regulating companies, and how there's been this race to Delaware, there's been this race to California, and now you obviously moved your company from the West Coast to Texas. What drove that decision? And now that you've had some time to let it sink in, and you've actually moved into Texas, what do you see as the big positives of being located in this state?
Yes, one thing is people always talk about income tax, right? But what they, and I bet you a lot of people are actually moving for that reason, and they kind of have this veiled thing they state. But with us, actually, we definitely did not move because of income tax. Because I think people don't understand that Washington State, where I was at, Seattle, does not have an income tax. It also has a more favorable tax code to wealthy people. So I actually get taxed less over there than I do here in Texas by a lot. By a lot, no question. I knew that coming in, by the way. I made this decision for the sake of the company long term and for the mission. And I can explain why I get taxed a lot more, but I also don't really care. Like I'm wealthy anyways. Like if I got to pay more taxes, I'm cool with that. Like I'm not gonna whatever, be all mad about that and stuff. But anyways, I think so a lot of people are coming for tax reasons, mainly from California, obviously Washington State. That is not the reason. If they're moving from there, it's other things, right? So, and Seattle's a powerhouse too. People don't realize Amazon, Microsoft, these are trillion-dollar companies. And Microsoft's gonna keep going, so is Amazon. They'll be $4 trillion before you blink, and they're gonna get big. But yeah, so what was the question again?
What actually drove you to go to Texas? It wasn't income taxes?
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, so cultural things are, a big thing, right? I saw that I had a big vision. I wanted to create the largest enterprise ever built, ever. So, and that's what I'm still gonna do. And and that sounds crazy, but that's cool, whatever, man. Think I'm crazy, that's fine. But that's why I wanted to get on the right soil, because you're going to draw from your people locally, right? Like I'm going to draw from people like you locally here in Texas to help build this company and do something great that can serve people everywhere on earth through business. So I want to be in the right spot for that. I also was looking out and I was saying, a number of practical items, right? Like I got kids, I have 4 kids, thinking about how they're going to be raised. Do I want them to be around an environment of bigotry where I'm a devout Christian. Are they going to feel like, they're being discriminated against in a soft way because they're Christian? I don't want that environment. I mean, even if you have people that are conservative, libertarian, Christian, whatever, right? If they're in power, they have a duty not to go and knock people over the head on the other side. We have a duty to love others and keep it open. We haven't always done this historically, right? But we have a duty to do that for sure. Now, I think that we have an environment over there where it's gotten a little bit negative on that side, and people are trying to go around the parents and impose stuff. So I was hearing complaints from people in my company, other parents of kids that are employees, and they were saying that they were worried. And I was thinking this is just like a universal concern that people aren't talking about. So that was one thing, right? Just raising kids, that's a practical item. The other one is, this is from a business standpoint, is you want to be in the spot where the wave's about to catch. You want to catch the next wave, right? Now, most people are jumping on the wave that exists. Most people, right? Now, you got to spot the wave that's coming. And sometimes you could be sitting on it and not realize it, right? Like you guys are sitting on it. You're here in Texas. You might not realize how much of a wave is starting to pick up here. Maybe you do. It's becoming obvious now. But I realized that given a lot of fundamentals, as I looked out over the world about a year and a half ago, that Texas was going to be a wave. Like Austin was going to be a wave. It was going to start coming. And there was a number of factors that led me to believe that was true. And that was a factor. Because if you're part of a wave rising, tide lifts all ships, right? So even if you suck at business and you're in the right spot, you're still going to come up, right? So not that I want to suck, I want to be the best, but at the same time it helps to propel yourself. So those are, there's other things too. Texas has an engineering culture. People don't realize that, but it's true. Nothing was here before. They had to build everything. It's a huge state. You also had to build engineering for a lot of the stuff they wanted, whether it was like ranching, or the way they got to oil through fracking was insanely, very ingenious engineering they had to use. That led to an engineering culture here. I'm guessing that's how it came about. There's also a pioneering mentality. People came here, there was nothing here originally, just a bunch of land and stuff, and actually not the best climate per se. With air conditioning, it's fine. But anyway, so they came, and then I also there's other factors. It's next to Mexico. Mexico is a huge booming economy. People talk about Mexico very abstractly. They don't understand. It's one of the biggest places in the world, and it's just below us, over 100 million people, and an economy that's growing. And I think Mexico will be a better alternative than China. It already is, to manufacture things where you need trust. Because if China's putting different things into your technology in order to create basically government advantages for China over other countries, no one's going to trust them, especially after this COVID stuff. No one's going to trust them. Look, even when COVID just hit, I talked to friends of mine that are leading business leaders in Europe and on Zoom and stuff. This is when COVID just hit, right? So everyone was saying, oh, COVID didn't come from China. It was just whatever, random. It came from a bat or whatever. Fine, who cares what happened? But right then, they were already saying, behind closed doors, in Europe, nobody trusts China. Now it's all about how do we get off dependency, because they've got like our supply chain. And then everything out front that came out the next months is all like political and stuff, keeping good relationships. And that's all good, and I don't want to like go dog China. The Chinese people are great, but they have an authoritarian regime, so that's a different thing, than the people. So, but yeah, the factor, being close to Mexico, you're central to the country, very well positioned for shipping. You have excellent trade zones there in between us and them where you can manufacture goods. You also have a good things that have started already, like Dell, Trilogy, other companies that came in here and got the party started in tech anyways. So anyways, it's a complex answer, but.
No, that's very helpful. So one of the things that I like to do in every corporations class is spend the last couple weeks focusing on a special topic in corporate law and securities law. And this semester we're going to be studying blockchain and cryptocurrencies. And so I'd love to get your perspective on that. I know you've looked into it, you're researching it, you may even be doing some activity in there already. So could you talk to us a little bit about your thoughts on blockchain as a technology and its opportunities and also its perils?
Yeah, I don't see too many perils at this point, but I'm sure there is some. But I think blockchain, I think it's an answer to a lot of our problems right now of centralization and the power of a few, and wealth and the power of a few, which I'm not a fan of as well. And I'm from a working class background. I'm Irish Catholic, man. I'm about trying to let people rise up, So, and I think right now you have a centralization, and it's a problem. The wealth gap's an issue. I'm not a socialist at all. I'm all about us staying a capitalistic system, but we need to be other-minded, like we're in this together with everybody. So I think blockchain has a lot of solutions there where you can decentralize wealth, the ability to buy and trade and get access to things can happen through blockchain. So I'm very bullish. I also, when I first read the Bitcoin white paper, which is, if you're, legally trained, you would understand it. I read that in 2015, 16, whatever. And immediately I was like, this is ingenious. And then I was like, so I told my wife, put some money in escrow on Bitcoin because it was booming too much. And then when it crashed 2 Thanksgivings ago, we bought a bunch of it at 3,000 or so, But I was so bullish. It was the only time that I've ever, because I'm so careful about, telling any friends to buy an investment. I actually just don't do it because it's too risky. Because if it doesn't go well, they're going to be like, well, we're not friends anymore. But I was I texted a bunch of my friends and family. I was like, hey, just buy Bitcoin right now. It's the only time I've ever told you to do anything. Unfortunately, nobody in my family listened to me. So, which is, pretty typical of family members. But until recently, my brother's like, hey man, should I still buy Bitcoin? I was like, I don't know if it's a good time now, man. It's 60,000. So, but it probably still is, actually. But I'm not buying, and I don't do whatever you guys want at this point, but I'm Bitcoin a million, I think is going to keep going. But Bitcoin's different than blockchain. The underlying technology is blockchain, which is distributed. It's basically a distributed ledger that allows accounting to be done at a lower cost, which drops your transactions tremendously. And that's done through basically 2 things, cryptography and machines that are connected through networks, right? So machines connected to networks have been here for a little bit. Cryptography has gotten better. Connecting the 2 was ingenious, and whoever did that, someone who did that definitely had a legal mind, because whoever wrote that thing, you could tell it was written by someone with some idea of how to think in jurisprudence language. He had good abstract capabilities of thinking. So probably some kind of a team of people. But anyways, but blockchain though, within a few weeks after that, I'd say I realized, real estate could be tokenized and done the same as with Bitcoin. I didn't move on that idea right away, and actually I was so busy with the other things we were doing that I went on a blockchain podcast, the most listened to blockchain podcast in the UK, and I was like, someone needs to create this thing. I was explaining why, So anyways, now we're doing it ourselves. But that was 2 years ago when I said that, and I explained why that's important. I think it's really important for the world that we democratize access to real estate. If you look at assets down the street, you walk around, those are owned generally by wealthy people. It's not owned by a person walking down the street. It's not owned by common people. It's owned by very wealthy individuals. And these assets can be tremendously profitable, very low risk, and continue to compound in their ability to grow, right? So what we're doing is we're going to be putting assets onto the blockchain and trying to drive. Now, obviously, we have to deal with the SEC and figure that out and work with them and stuff like that. But there's already a clear path that we have to build this stuff. We're already building it right now, actually, and it's already underway. It's called OwnProp. But it's not released to the public yet, so you can't get a hold of it. But essentially, every single asset we have there, we have an asset that's an iconic asset in downtown Austin that we're putting on there. It's called Hotel Ella, and that will be democratized, and people have the ability to buy it now. because of the rules with the SEC, we can't actually open it up to retail investors right now. But we are going to work towards that, and within like 18 months, we'll have like an alternative trading system, or whatever they call it, ATS, clearance with the SEC so that we can do that. But yeah, I'm very bullish on crypto in general, or blockchain, let's say, and crypto, and trying to figure out applications of it, different applications as well than even the ones we're doing. We have another idea that we haven't started on yet, but we've thought through, which is putting I'll give away my trade secrets now, so I'm gonna hold back on that one. Wait until we get started. But anyways, it's something about securing people's data, because data privacy is a big problem. So we have an idea about how to leverage blockchain in that area that we're moving on, but we don't have light of day yet anyways. But on the own prop one, on the blockchain for real estate, we already do, and we have significant advantages already. So I'm happy to just, boom, talk about that idea. So.
Great. No, that's very helpful. Gives the students a little bit of preparation for what we're going to start turning to next week. I want to make sure that I leave 20 minutes or so for classes, for questions from the class. Before I do, I'd just like to finish up with one last question. So Pete, you've had a long successful career, went to law school. What advice do you have for law students who may be considering a career in law or business?
Yes, I don't like to. I've learned that you can't project so much. Like I have my own gifts. I'm good at what I'm good at. Billy's much smarter than me at law for sure. I'm actually trying to see if we can get him involved in the blockchain thing that we're doing, right? And he's kind of being a little hard to get, but we'll get him, and we'll gig him. Is that what gigging is?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
right. I saw it on sign when I was coming in. So. Yeah. So, anyways, but what was the question, man?
The question is your advice for law students who are considering careers in law business.
That's right, yeah. So look within yourself. What was it? The proverb or from Delphic Oracle in Greek times was know thyself. Well, knowing yourself is actually very hard. So, talk to friends, try to figure out like what is it that is your passions? What things do you hate? What things are you good at? What things do you suck at? You're gonna suck at some things naturally, right? Like I'd say I probably suck at law and a few other things. But I forced myself to do it because I figured it'd be good for me, Anyways, I was able to accomplish it, but it wasn't natural. Entrepreneurship is like so easy for me. It's like so natural. So I think, if you've got a brilliant policy mind and you love that, then, go. I don't want to discourage people from going towards things. Like go towards that, do what you naturally gravitate towards. If you have a little bug in your ear that's kind of into business and passionate about that, entrepreneurship, then go after that. I mean, I definitely want to encourage people of goodwill to go into entrepreneurship. So let me go into that little sermon, is that it's important that people of goodwill go into entrepreneurship. So there's a lot of people that are not going in, obviously, because we don't have a lot of good people in there. But we need people who are grounded in actual principles. So they have self-restraint, and they also have a desire to do good, and they also have the ability, they have a little thing in their mind, their conscience, that will prevent them from doing harm when they have something good they've created. And we need people going into entrepreneurship because they're the ones that are creating stuff in the society. They're the ones that are they're the ones at the top, they have the bully pulpit. So, and they have the ability to, influence so many things through how they put their money, how they speak, stuff like that. So we need more people going into that. But at the same time, I'll also say we also need great judges. We need good lawyers that are out there that are doing good stuff. We need good professors, stuff like that. So that's really highly abstract advice, but, whatever. I don't know how much more detail I can get with it. I don't have to go to each individual. And I probably wouldn't even be a good advisor. I'm not a good advisor, so.
Okay, well, let's turn to questions from the audience. Do we have any questions for Pete from the class?
So you mentioned kind of foreseeing the Texas wave happen before it did, and that's what sort of incentivized your move out here. So do you see industry that might be sort of the next wave in the future, maybe like a decade down the road or something? Maybe not even for the tech industry, but do you see any of those things popping up?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's hard to say the next wave after this one because already this one's just starting, right? So, but I do have some thoughts about that. I think that, I think a place like Miami I could see coming up. And now people are talking about, Miami's going to be a tech center and everything else. Okay, hold your horses a little bit. It's not quite at the level that I'd say Texas is, from a just density of talent standpoint. It's not even close. It's really like 100x difference. So I think Austin's in a much, much, much better position to actually take leadership than a Miami right now. But I could see a Miami becoming a finance center eventually because you have a lot of Latin Americans trying to bank there, stuff like that. So I could also see it maybe being other things as you get one thing in, other things attach on. So Miami could be something long term, and Florida in general is kind of in play, right? It's probably going to have multiple centers of area, but I'd say Miami's going to be the lead there, I would say. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. Well, I would say another thing I would say that would be like an intriguing thought maybe for you guys would be, I think the leadership in the next 10, 20 years, we're going to see a lot of leadership coming out of Singapore and Texas for the two hemispheres, those two areas, because they're doing a lot of the right things and very different things they're doing based on who their population is, because it's all contextual how you need to rule. But those two areas, I think, are going to continue. Those two areas are going to take more and more leadership, I think. That would be what I would bet.
Do you consider like the actual climate when you think about where you're going to move? Because I've heard a lot of people are leaving California. They have no water. Like, do you think about stuff like that? Like, do you think about like 100 years from now, you want your company to still exist? Think else? Like, do you like consider based on stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, we consider natural resources. I mean, look, we're sitting on a lot of, well, it's not that we're sitting on oil, but we can get to the oil out of here, right? So, and we still are an oil-dependent country. Even if you're driving a Tesla, you're still made out of petrochemicals, largely, the car. So I think, definitely, I'd say water, all those things I consider, But on the other hand, I think a lot of these things the most important thing is human innovation. So you think California, they're going to run out of water? Well, it's maybe because the government's probably regulating the hell out of people's brains and they can't have the freedom to do stuff because they're sitting right next to an ocean. You could just desalinize the water. Like, what? That technology's been around for ever. So they could do that, and as they desalinize the water, they could drop those costs, because technology costs, as you start to apply them, should drop every 2 years massively, almost in half. I forget what I think is half every 2 years, Wright's Law, I think they call it. But anyways, it's to start half itself as you commoditize it out. So I think, water is abundant, it's everywhere, it's about getting to it. Energy is abundant, it's everywhere. Look, E equals MC squared, right? So this table can, could theoretically blow up Dallas probably. You know what I'm saying? A house could blow up the earth, or I don't even know, it's some crazy mathematical thing, right? And it's about, converting that. And we even nuclear energy, that's political, the reason why it's being held back. But if we could figure out a way to get that going, that would probably be the best, but probably won't happen. But so human innovation is the most important thing, and looking at human capital that's my number one thing. Density of human capital. And the other thing about Texas, right? The university systems are excellent. Like A&M is a great school. It's awesome. That's why I'm here because I know Billy, but I'm also here because it's a great school. And people underestimate that, how good the institutions are. But you look at those, how hard it is to get in these places. I mean, it's just a big state. It's 30 million people. So you could just have your pick, and you just get elite people. And there's institutions set up throughout this. Texas has institutions everywhere. It's just they've dumped a lot of money to this over the last 50 years or whatever it was. So. I'm surprised you guys aren't into crypto more, man. So, okay. You look like the crypto guy, actually. That's good. I like that.
You talked about putting real estate on the blockchain. Wouldn't that make it more difficult for the average person to own property and therefore build wealth?
No, I mean, it would make it easier because you drop transaction costs. So say this asset right here, this building could be, I don't know what it's worth, but everything's location dependent, but say it's worth $10 million, right? If I drop this on the blockchain, I can sell interest of it for $1. So I could be like, hey, who wants to own a piece of this? You go to class here, you want to own a piece, you know the area real well. You have advantages as a person locally because you know what's good, what's not, how neighborhoods are trending. You'd be like, yeah, I think I'm bullish here. A&M is expanding, I've heard, whatever. They're going to, that means there's economic activity happening. It's an institution that will be, steady and permanent. It has a huge endowment in them as well. So they have a good source of cash flow long-term to cover their rent payments. So you could take that and split it into 10 million tokens. This $10 million asset, 10 million tokens, and then boom, you buy $1, you buy $1, you buy $100, and you just sit on it, and that's it. You could basically decide, I'll just give it to my kids. You can actually physically just give them a written up thing with the token to your kids. You don't have to do it on the chain. And that's pretty powerful. Now, in this country, we have great rules of law, and we just have so many blessings in this country. People that don't know that just need to be shipped out somewhere else for 30 days. Send them to a different country, and they'll realize holy crap, dude, this is a paradise. That's why everyone's dying to get in here. It's such a good country. Even though, we have our own problems, obviously, and it could go the other way. But you go to other places. I've been to 85 countries, man. You go to certain places, man, I can't even bring my kids there. I can't bring my wife there. It's dangerous as hell. So you got to be like watching your back. Like, you don't know if someone's going to try to kidnap you. There's other things going on. There's no rule of law. There's just like back dealing. Judges know this guy. It's all super corrupt, right? But now imagine you live in like India, right? You live in Mumbai and you're trying to come up. So, and you want to pay for your kids so they can go to university, but you're poor, but you're working hard. Well, you can buy $1 of this asset as well. And now you have a real asset versus like that currency you're getting, which is getting inflated at 10, 20, 30% possibly by your government, which works to enslave you further. Because then that dollar you get next year, it's worth 70 cents. I'm not trying to pick on India. It's not India per se. I'm just saying other countries. You have governments that are in charge, and effectively, you see certain countries do this. I want to be careful. I don't want to pick fights with countries. But there are certain countries that do this, and they will just inflate the hell out of the currency. It's a way to, in a very sneaky way, keep the workers at bay, where they feel like they're getting $1, but they're inflating the currency so much that money's not worth much the next year. So say you did succeed in saving up $100,000 so you can send your kids to A&M, right? Well, it turns out like next year it's worth 70, and the next year it's worth less. It keeps going down. But if you could take that money and just boom, throw it into this asset right here on the blockchain, then that's going to keep going up for you, and it's going to be there. It's durable. Even in the times of Julius Caesar, 60 BC, real estate was big. One of the three of the triumvirate, Cassius or whatever, that was Cassius, I don't know what his name was, whatever. One of the three triumvirate, he made his money off real estate, right? So like real estate's been a durable asset forever, and it's a known quantity. It will stay as durable.
Well, what you just explained makes life as an investor better in the real estate world, but not for an individual looking for shelter.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So, but I think you're combining two concepts. Ownership and control and use are two different things. And I think you said own, so I talked about ownership. You can still own assets and benefit from the ownership of the asset, which is the wealth it creates. Now, whether or not you can control your area through tenancy, you can become a tenant of a place or an occupant of a place. That's different. That's about housing supply and stuff, and supply and demand, and builders building up low enough cost housing that people can afford it. But I think those two concepts should be separated anyways long term. I mean, I wish they were right now. I don't want to own and control my house. I'd rather just control it. Owning it is a pain in the butt, right? Because then you got to deal with all the nonsense around maintenance and everything else. But I have to have 4 kids, so it's gotten to the point that I needed to. But for as long as I could, I didn't buy a home. Even though I owned a lot of real estate, I owned them as investments. But I think theoretically this should happen. I don't see why it won't happen over the next 10, 20, 30 years, where you have a separation of ownership, where you can have people owning assets in real estate and participating in the wealth creation of the asset, and the control is separated out and just properly managed, really well maintained through management companies that are excellent professional services companies. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, yes.
So it sounds like a lot of this value that's added by this real estate blockchain is like giving access to assets for regular people, which is, I think that's a great idea. Everything. What is the advantage of doing this on the blockchain versus like crowdfunding into real estate investment companies like Fundrise?
So I don't know. I can't speak to like any specific real estate crowdfunding asset, like whatever it is, right? So. But I think the key thing is like your tokenization, that you can actually own the asset itself, the token of it, and you could take it off the chain, and the targetability of it, so you can pick your asset. I want this one, or I want that one down the street. That would be the key difference. And it's done just much lower cost, because blockchain, you could just drop those costs dramatically. I was talking to some of my blockchain engineers on the phone today about some stuff, and they were saying that from their research about, I don't know if this is true or not, so this is from them, they estimated about 60 different people get paid something for transactions that happen in order to just verify whether it's like you have a certain people around there, like lawyers, accountants, different things around the exact transaction, but you also have other people that are paid secondary payments that go out, about 60 per transaction. On the blockchain, you have you can get it down to theoretically 0 even now. So you drop those costs down, boom, like right now you can't buy $1 of this asset because it'll cost you $1,000 to close it. You know what I'm saying? So it'd be like, no, make no sense. Even if you want to buy $10,000 of it, it still really wouldn't make sense. You'd pay 10% to closing fees. So, but if you can get it down much lower, you can start selling it for $1 a piece. Some of this stuff is theoretical, but it's actually possible, right? It just has to be built into the future. The other thing I'll mention, man, from democratization standpoint of real estate that I like is that, say you have like parents or whatever that are, cash poor, which is, I'm sure a lot of us do, right? You have parents that are on pensions, they're teachers. My parents were teachers, right? But they have actually an asset they've been lived in for their whole life, their home, right? So they're actually somewhat rich in a way. They have a few $100,000, they just can't get to it. So they could be like, I want to go visit my kids, at Texas A&M. They're so stressed out at the law school and everything else. So they could just, sell, $1,000 of coins out of my house, onto the chain, and boom, get $1,000 in and travel. Why can't you do that? Why wouldn't there be people interested in that real estate? There would be, definitely. I mean, it's an asset. So why wouldn't someone want to buy it and sell it for a certain price? They would. So you can gain some liquidity there. So some of this stuff sounds like it's pretty futuristic type stuff, but I don't think it's definitely possible. It's not like I'm not smoking crack,
This is something I've never heard of, the blockchain mixed with the real estate. Are you the only company that's doing that? Are there other companies that are breaking that same market, or how is that?
I'm the only company that matters. So, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm just kidding. No, there's other companies there's a couple other companies doing it. I've looked into them, I met them, and that's cool. I don't necessarily think it's has to be one only, right? And I'm more of a, like I said, I went on a podcast, 2 years ago, most crypto listened podcasts in the UK, and I was pitching the idea for someone else to pick it up and just do it. I just think it should happen. So I think it's a really important thing that should happen. I generally look at things, I say, should this thing happen or not? Would I be proud to build this thing? And then I decide if I'm going to go for it. I'm very missionary type focused, this is my way my brain works. Like, I won't be able to get out of bed in the morning for just money. If you're like, yo man, here's $1 billion, I need you to take 6 months off and not do anything. I'll be like, no. So I'm just not going to do it for money. I don't want to sell my soul for money. You know what I'm saying? I want to do things that are important. So.
What is your thoughts on non-fungible tokens, NFTs, these things that are being traded in virtual baseball cards, virtual artwork, so you can buy and place on the blockchain?
You talk about artwork when people tokenize it and sell it, stuff like that? Yeah, and on something kind of silly, like a JPEG or something, okay, yeah. So I would say what we're going to do is, it's a real proven asset over time. It's durable. Like I talked about, goes out Julius Caesar, right? But it's gone on forever where real estate's been an asset class. And as long as we've had written history, basically, we've had, people trading and owning real estate for wealth. So it's a proven asset. So that would be my main thing to say versus say a goofy thing like whatever people are tokenizing. However, I would also say that I don't really want to say that that's wrong. It's nothing right or wrong about it. I would just say it's not as valuable or as meaningful. But what they're doing there is tokenizing some picture that someone created or whatever. It could be good. It also just could be boom and bust cycle type thing. A lot of people, if you're in a boom and you're part of the boom and you're a participant, you don't know you're in the boom. I got cracked so hard in 2007 when we had the financial crisis hit, because I was only 2 years in business, I thought I was the man, I was like, oh, I know what's up, this and that. Turns out I didn't, and I got smashed. Almost went bankrupt, It was a lot of stress. And then I actually, at that point, after that was over, then I knew some stuff, but I was also more humbled. So, but I think some of the people right now, and I don't know about this, but my sense is some of these people are going to get smoked. They're going to, make a bunch of stuff off some crypto thing. They're going to sell it, trade it, boom, do all this stuff. It's going to crash, and they'll not have paid their IRS bills, and that's not going to work because they'll trade it and keep moving the money because it keeps going up, and then boom, and then oh yeah, the IRS now wants $10 million and you got zero. That could happen, and there'll be other things that will happen too. But then again, there's something real about this too, right? You look at the .com bust that happened in 2001 or whatever, and I don't remember this stuff because I was in high school or whatever, but I've read history on all these things, and human nature is consistent. They will just get, there's a real thing, it's got some stuff about it, they get overly enthusiastic about it, and they go too far and it blows up. They've got different coins. I hear about this in my office. Some of the younger guys will be like, hey man, you got to get in this coin. I'll be like, I'm good, man. I got Bitcoin, dude. So I think that's going to be durable. But there's other ones coming in, there's tons of these NFT type things, right? So, and I hope they all work out. But the reality is they're not all going to work out. And some people are going to get hurt pretty bad on it. But in the net, I think society will be better off because of blockchain and because of crypto.
Yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts
Yeah, so I mean, so here's the thing, right? Like, I agree with conservatives on a lot of stuff, and people say, oh, I'm conservative on morals, I'd say, and libertarians, I agree with a lot on policy, but I think it's all contextual. I would say I try to avoid any tagline too much, and in a way, and this is something like conservatives, libertarians will get pissed at this. I'm much more liberal when it comes to these types of topics, like living wage topics. I think we can all pay living wages, and we could figure it out as a society. And I'm not saying the government needs to be involved in forcing that, but I think we can, as a society, pay living wages. I like the concept of it. Now, whether you go with outside companies, outside this country to other places, I have a team called Rex Team India we created over the last 3 years in India. And I'm a fan of actually doing stuff like that. I already did it, obviously. And I think these people are, human beings as well. And they've also got dreams. And they've got a lot of talent. So I think it's great. And they also are complementarity with what we're good at here in America, right? We're good at a lot of stuff. Engineering, we're also good at that, but we don't have a big supply of engineers. It's the biggest constrained resource right now, right? So in order to get around that, I built a team, Rex Team India, out of India for engineering, because we have a huge constraint there. And they have an abundance of excellent engineers. And I think, I'm very happy we did it. I'm proud to be supporting their livelihood out there. I'm not one of these, I'm a patriot, right? But at the same time, I'm not one of these people who's like, oh, America, is better than everyone else, or Americans are better than everyone else. Like, these other people are less human in some way. So I don't buy into that crap either. So I'm not an isolationist type person. Anyways, and that goes in, and that's why I'm very pro-immigration as well. Like, people coming from Mexico. I mean, yeah, we got to do things right and everything else, but this is obviously great. These people want to be here, just like my ancestors did, and everyone's ancestors did, and let them come here. They're going to create opportunities for us, and there'll be more for everybody. It doesn't need to be a fixed pie mindset. Anyways, I'm a little bit tangentic on things, but you get the point there.
You mentioned that you moved here because you're trying to avoid over-regulation from a extreme type government position. So I'm interested in your opinion on Texas's new regulation that keeps businesses from being able to mandate vaccines in their companies. How do you feel about that sort of regulation?
Well, I didn't move here. I don't think I gave that reason. Regulations, did I? I didn't say regulations in Washington State. I think Washington State is extremely friendly to business people, actually. I mentioned cultural reasons. Now, California has some regulatory issues, definitely. That like Tesla's moved. I already declared they're moving out, and same with SpaceX and everything else, right? But yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of over-encroaching government. I think if the people have enough civic virtue, I'm more of a fan of the people being trusted and allowing them to have more power than the government. So I think that would be what I do think about that. But then again, it's contextual as well. I'm not like democracy for everyone has to have democracy in everywhere in the world, no matter what, and that we'll go to war with somebody over that. I'm not a big fan of that either. But as far as the specific instance of which is pretty hot button issue, the vaccine thing, I would say, let me just talk from my own position, is I don't know about the government policy, whether the government should get involved in that, Texas itself or the federal government, right? But from a CEO leader, I will not force my people to take vaccines, and I'm not going to force them to do something with their body. It's their body. I'm not going to be like, oh, you need to inject something in your veins. First of all, I wouldn't want someone to do that to me. So I think they should be educated. They should know what's good for them. We should use persuasion and not try to force things on people. Try to persuade them, like, hey, I have more vaccines probably than anybody in this room. So I'm serious. I've been to so many countries. So anyway, so I'm obviously a very, very big fan of vaccines. However, I'm also not a fan of totalitarian type behavior where you have the power as a CEO, so you use it to push it down on your people that are in a more fragile state. Like, what are they going to do? They could have kids. They could be economically dependent on you, and you're just going to be like, take this vaccine or not. So I'm not a big fan of that, and that's where I stand on that. And I'm pretty hardcore on that position. Now, if the government came in and they said I have to do it, then I'd have to cross that bridge. Then I would, I don't know if I'd do it then. I mean, it depends. It depends on the situation. It's contextual. Would I do it on this current situation? I don't know, man. The government might have a lawsuit from Rex. So.
All right. Well, I think that's about all the time we have for today. But please join me in thanking Peter for coming and giving this fantastic discussion about Rex technology in the state of Texas. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.